Okay, in this video I'm going to go over the Exam 6 review. So number one, we're looking for the slope given the graph of a line. So first of all, we want to find some nice points. Like you can see, the point 0,2 is right where the lines cross. That's what we're looking for. And there's another point, how about at 1, -1? Now there's also one down here and there's one right here. You can use any 2 points, but the key is they have to be exact. It just can't be close. Like if you look over here, 2, 0 is not a point that's on the line. It is close. It's got to be exact. So we know slope is rise over run. Now we could start from either point. I normally like to start at the point on the left. So we're going to rise, well, we either go up or down. To get to this point, we'll have to go down 1, 2, 3. Since we went down, that's a rise of -3. And then we got to go to the right 1. And we would write the slope as -3. All right, on letter B, looks like we have a point at 0, -1. And there's a point here at 5, 2. So in this case, let's see, rise over run. Let's see, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the rise was 3 and the run was 5. I just realized on my key I used 3, 1 as a point, but it's not actually it's not on that line, so the answer is 3/5 here. This is a flat line. It's got a slope of 0. We can tell just by looking at it. You could do rise over run, like between these 2 points, your rise would be 0 because you don't go up at all, and your run would be 1, and that is equal to 0. So either way, we get 0. Now on number 2, we're going to use the slope formula. This is what we use if we're given 2 points on a line and we have to find the slope. So we'll call this the first point, x1, y1, and this the second point, x2, y2. And so it's y2 minus y1 in the numerator. That's 5 minus -2. Notice you're subtracting a negative number. The formula is subtraction, or uses subtraction. x2, or x sub 2, is -1 minus x sub 1, which is 5. This is 5 plus 2, which is 7. -1 minus 5 is -6. We would normally put that negative out front. All right. Number 3. So if we want to find the slope and y-intercept for this line, we want to put it in slope-intercept form, because then we'll know the slope and we will know the y-intercept. So first of all, we should subtract the 4x from each side. We're trying to get the y by itself. So let's get rid of that x term first. These guys add up to 0. You're left with -6y is equal to, let's put the minus 4x first. And since it's a positive 12, it'll be plus 12. I need to divide both sides by -6, so each term will get divided by -6. We get y equals, now -4 over -6 is a positive 2/3. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then 12 divided -6 is -2. We'll just write that as -2. So remember, we're supposed to find the slope. It's 2/3. And the y-intercept, is 0, -2. Let's move on to number 4. So here we're solving an equation. I'm going to use CSI. So the first thing I do need to do is clear the fractions, and we do that by multiplying both sides of the equation by the LCD. Well, there's only one denominator, so that's your least common denominator. So if I multiply each of the terms by 8, I will clear fractions. 8 times 7/8 is 7, and then don't forget the x. Basically, the 8's cancel here. You got 1 times 7x, or 7x. Of course, 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 1 is 8. This is a two-step equation. It's going to take 2 steps to get x by itself. We'll have to divide by 7. We'll have to subtract 24. We always do addition or subtraction first with a two-step equation. We get 7x equals 16. Divide by 7, you get x is 16 over 7. All right, on number 5, our LCD is 10. If you look at the multiples of 2, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. The multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30. The multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15. Notice 10 is the least common multiple. These are all multiples. Multiples of 2, multiples of 10, and multiples of 5. 10 is a common multiple for all of them. Now the way I usually tell students to find LCD is take the biggest number and look at its multiples until you find one that's divisible by the other numbers. Well, 10 is divisible by 2 and 5, so that is going to be your LCD. So we have to multiply each of these terms by 10. I'll do my arithmetic over here. So 10 times x over 2 is 10x over 2, or 5x. 10 times 7/10. We multiply across, you get 70 over 10, which is 7. On the other side, we have 10 times x over 5. That's 10x over 5, or 2x. And 10 times 7 over 2 is 70 over 2, or 35. So plus 35. So notice, again, in doing CSI, we've cleared the fractions. Notice there's nothing that can be simplified on the left side of the equation. These are not like terms. Same thing over here, so there's nothing to simplify. We do need to isolate x on one side because it's on both sides, so that's what I is for. We'll subtract 2x on both sides. We get 3x minus 7 is 35. And so this is a two-step equation. You'll need to add 7 to both sides. What's that? 42. And then divide by 3. And you should get x is 14. Let's move on. I need to put this down a little bit. All right, on number 6, we're simplifying expression. Notice there's no equation here to solve. So we're going to have to distribute here. We'll get negative 21x minus 14, because negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. We'll write that using subtraction. Here we have a negative in front of parentheses. We're really just distributing negative 1 here. So the 9x becomes a minus 9x. And the minus 8 becomes a plus 8. Now don't forget to bring down the minus 10. And now, and by the way, this is all simplifying. Now we can combine our x terms. Negative 21 and negative 9 is negative 30. So we have negative 30x. We have negative 14 and 8, which is negative 6. And negative 10 makes negative 16. So we'll write minus 16. Here, we're supposed to evaluate this if x is -2, so we're going to make a skeleton or a shell. Wherever there's an x, we'll put parentheses, and we'll plug in -2. Now, you should be able to, or you can certainly plug this in your calculator and know that you're doing it right, but you should be able to use the order of operations. We always simplify inside parentheses first, then we take care of exponents, multiplications and divisions working left to right, additions and subtractions are last, again working left to right. So here our highest priority is squaring -2. Of course, -2 times -2 is 4. And then next we have a couple of multiplications. We'll take care of those next. So this is 12 minus, and 4 times -2 is -8. Now you could have just said plus 8 there. That would be a shortcut. But we get 12 plus 8 plus 5. Well, 12 and 8 is 20, plus 5, you're going to get 25. So you should certainly be able to do this part here and then use your calculator. If you show all your steps, you'll get full credit on the test. All right, let's move on. On number 8, all we have to do is FOIL, because it's a binomial times a binomial. We multiply the first terms, we get 6x squared. When we multiply the outer terms, we get 15x. The inner terms, we get a minus 8x. And the last terms, -4 times 5, we get -20 or minus 20. Notice we have two like terms here. We're going to end up with 6x squared. 15 minus 8 is 7, so plus 7x minus 20. Now on 9a, b, c, and d, we're factoring. So let's go ahead and start here and factor 9x squared minus 16. Now this is what we call a difference of squares, because 9x squared is equal to 3x times itself. And of course 16 is 4 times itself. And anytime we have a difference of squares, we know that we can factor it using two binomials. The first terms multiply to 9x squared, and again they're both the same. 3x times 3x gives you the 9x squared. Again, these have to be the same. And of course 4 times 4 is 16, so 4 and 4 goes here. 1 minus and 1 plus. Anytime you factor a difference of squares, you're going to get the same terms in both parentheses. The only difference will be one has a minus and one has a plus. Let's go on to B. I think we can do that here. So here you can see that 12, 16, and 8 have a common factor, and in fact, the largest for 12, 16, and 8 would be 4. Notice 2 works, but 4 is the largest. The other thing is this term has 4 factors of x, this has 2, this one has 1. So all the terms have at least one factor of x, and so our GCF is 4x. And so now we're just doing the distributive property in reverse. We know that 4x times this first term should equal 12x to the fourth. Well, 4 times 3 is the 12, and x times x cubed will give us the x to the fourth. And then it's going to be minus 4, that's the minus 16, and x times x would give us the x squared. And then plus 2. Because 2 times 4x is 8x. In fact, it's not a plus 2, it's a minus 2. So that would be minus 8x, which is correct. So a couple of things to check. First of all, notice there's no common factors in the parentheses. That tells me I used the right GCF. And then if I distribute, I get back to where I started. All right, so that's how you can check yourself. Let's go on to C. We have x squared minus 14x plus 45. So we're looking for, in this case, our AC is 1 times 45, or 45, and our B term is negative 14. Now, factors of 45, you can find those. We get 1 times 45, 3 times 15, and 5 times 9. And since we get a positive answer, these are both positive or both negative. When we multiply, we get a positive. So since they add to a negative, they must both be negative. And notice negative 5 plus negative 9, that's going to give us negative 14. So when I multiply here, I do get 45. When I add, I get negative 14. So we can go ahead and split our B term. Instead of negative 14x, we'll have a minus 5x and a minus 9x. Don't forget to bring down the 45. So we're replacing negative 14x with negative 5x minus 9x. That does add up to negative 14x. So now we can factor by grouping. This will be x times x minus 5. And then when we factor these two terms, we should also get x minus 5. Remember, if you don't get the same thing inside each parentheses, you know something's wrong when you're factoring by grouping. Of course, negative 9x here, I'm going to need a minus 9 here. And notice negative 9 times negative 5 does give us this 45. So we have two terms with a common factor of x minus 5. And if you cross those out, you can see the other two terms would be x minus 9. I would remind you that if you got to this point and you weren't sure you did it right, you could always FOIL this and you should get what we started with. All right, last problem, letter D. We've got 6x squared plus x minus 2. We need two numbers that multiply to negative 12. That would be my AC. Notice our B term, it's a 1x, so this is 1. Now you can go through all the numbers. In this case, I'll just tell you 3 and 4 work. Notice this time, since we get a negative when we multiply, these have to have opposite signs. Since they add up to 1, we'll make the smaller one negative. Notice when I multiply, I do get negative 12, and when I add, I do get 1. So let's go ahead and split our B term. We get 6x squared minus 3x plus 4x minus 2. So we can factor out a 3x here. 3x times 2x gives us the 6x squared, and that'll be minus 1, right? Because 3x times a minus 1 will give us the minus 3x. So when we factor these two terms, we're expecting a 2x minus 1. Of course, 2 times 2x will give us the 4x, and it should be positive. Notice 2 times negative 1 is also the negative 2. So we end up with 2x minus 1 times 3x plus 2. All right, so that's the first. I'm going to stop right there. That's the review part of our test. In the next video, I'll do the systems part of our test. Hopefully I can finish it all in 2 videos. All right.